to school with Hannah Ann.
No way.
Yeah, John went to school with her.
Okay, well, tell us this. Is she with Peter or not?
I don't know. He doesn't like talk to her. He was a freshman.
Remember that Venmo?
They know her sister.
Have you heard of Venmo theory?
No.
So it's the only people that are private from the final three.
Like,
We went to the same school, but she has no idea.
No way.
Yes.
The only people. Everyone else.
But he knows her sister.
The reason I started watching, this is only my second season, I started watching The Bachelorette because I have a mutual friend with Hannah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. They went to school together.
In Sydney. Gotcha.
In Sydney. I have friends with Sydney.
Oh yeah, but she said me and him have. Wait, Sydney who?
Yeah, I know. You told me.
She was on The Bachelor.
This one girl, the girl that said that her and Hannah or Madison have the same philosophy. Or like.
I know a guy.
I was like, did you just go? Did you see that one?
Who's related to her?
Do you know what I'm talking about? They were all but doing it.
I'm alive. It really was not that bad. I walked out of that midterm and was like, I think I made a solid B. And I think for a Young's class, a B is like an A for any other professor.
That's fair.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'll pray for us. Father, I pray you help us today as we work in Greek. I pray you open our minds to the Scriptures. I pray that we would love you more. I pray that we would see your greatness and the charm of your character, the beauty of your character. And I pray that you would use that as a means of grace in our lives to transform us more and more into the image of Jesus. And we pray this in Christ's name. Amen. All right. First 6 lines of the Lord's Prayer. Who would like to do it? Good.
Okay, I practiced yesterday. Pater hemon ha in tois urnois, hagiastato ta animasu, elthato he basileasu, genethato ta thalemasu. Hos in urno kai epides. Ton arton hemon ton epiusion das hemin Samaron, kai a face, ta, apholemata, hemon. And the next one is host, amaze, I'm missing
Kai.
haste, os, kai, amaze.
A fakeman.
That's it. That's all I know.
Wow. Wow. That is so good. We're memorizing stuff in a foreign language.
It's hard.
It is hard, isn't it? But it's making our minds better. So that's great.
I want the John one today. Give me the John one today.
You want to do John 1?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I've been working so hard. Okay. NRK. Ein halagos. Kai halagos. Ein prostante an katheos. Ein halagos. Tutos. Ein NRK prostante an. Hey. Panta di atu agenita. Kai chorus atu agenita. Ude in hagaganen. In ato zoe ein. Kai. He zoe ein tafas. Tone anthropon. Or Kai tafam. In taste katia fine Kai. Taste katia ata ukalamin.
Yeah. Where's that steroid shot, man?
That wasn't a steroid. That was you. That was you. Well done. Well done. Okay, so our new forms for today. We have the word no one. And do you recognize it's just haste, mia, hin, with the word not in front of it? No one. So why don't I have plurals up there? Because one doesn't have a plural, right? So udes, udenos, udeni, udena, udemia, udemias, udemia, udemion, uden, kai korisal, ta, ude, hen, not even one thing. So this is a familiar word. We're just filling out kind of the gaps. So not really that difficult.
Question on that.
Yes.
Why does it say when it says udahin as opposed to like udin or something like that? Is that more emphasis?
I guess when you say udahin, it's not, technically that would be not even hen, not even one thing. And udin would just be the easier way to say that. Not even one thing.
So udahin, having it as two words, is more emphasis.
That's exactly right. Good. Do you guys see Michael Bloomberg dropped out?
What, really?
What the heck
All those Bloomberg guys.
So think about this. Michael Bloomberg spent $500 million, $500 million for the 250 votes he got in American Samoa. That was what he won from his.
I know.
He could use that to found Yale University and endow it forever. I mean, $500 million is. And the lesson of that is we're smart people, okay? So maybe we should have success in the world too and make a difference. I don't know. I like Bloomberg, but I just was stunned. I mean, in a month and a half, he spent $500 million in one political contest. I mean, that's.
How did you pay for all this?
Man, you could have paid for a lot.
Okay. So
Yes, I'm voting for
that was not meant the endorsement of any other political candidate. Just that was an odd thing. So I don't have the review slides, so this is all new. So we'll just start. Samuel, will you do this one?
And coming with Jesus.
So do you see that that's third plural? So this from erkomai. So omai e etai ometha este ontai. So that's your third plural. So they come to Jesus. All right. Laurel, could you do this one? They see the demon-possessed man, clothed and saying, sitting there. So they see and I guess in English you would say the formerly demon-possessed man, because clearly he's not demon-possessed now. They see the demon-possessed man sitting there, having been clothed. So you don't have the little connecting vowel. When you don't have the connecting vowel, nearly always that's going to be a perfect passive participle. Having been clothed. So the picture we're meant to see there is when as soon as this man was healed, some of the people there took their own clothes, their extra clothes, and they clothed him. They saw the demon-possessed man sitting there, having been clothed, and being sophron, being completely rational. Very good, very good. Sophie, can you do this one?
they had heard the legion.
Okay, so this is tricky. This is actually the perfect active participial ending. Kos, katos, kati, kata. And it's from the word have, but in the perfect. How would you do that as a participle? I think you have to do it that way, having had, the one having had the legion. So the whole thing, they see the demon-possessed man sitting there, having been clothed and being in his right mind. That is the one having had the demon. Do you see that? And so that's how you make sense of the perfect there. All right, Michael. So they see the demon-possessed man sitting there, having been clothed and in his right mind, the one having had the demon, kai ephobetheson. The word phobia, I connect this word with phobia. And they were scared. It's actually the passive, but because it's phobeomai, it's a deponent. And I think the reason it's a deponent is because you can't dispassionately be afraid. When you're afraid, it's kind of all you think about. And so phobeo doesn't have any active forms. It only has middle passive forms. And the definition of a deponent is middle or passive in form, but active in meaning. So they were, I mean, if you were trying to do a translation to help people, you might say they were very afraid. It doesn't say very, but it implies very. So, all right, good. I want somebody to say yes. Yes.
Oh, yes.
All right.
And they were discussing amongst themselves. Wait, hold on. It's not correct. I've got it trying to shoot together. And they were discussing amongst themselves those who had seen what had happened to the demon-possessed man and about the pigs.
That is so good. That is so good. All right, who wants to do this one? Luke.
And they began to implore him to leave the region, to depart from the region.
Are you sure you read that right? Like Jesus just healed a man and they're begging Jesus to leave? Like that is the right translation, right?
Yes, yes.
Jesus heals and they beg Jesus to leave.
Is that the disciples begging?
That's the guys who saw it. Meaning they would rather have their pigs than the sovereign God of the universe.
That's insane.
They would rather have their pigs and put up with a demon-possessed man who terrorized people when they walked at night. They would rather have that than Jesus. And I wonder if there aren't times in our lives where we would rather have our sins than the sovereign God. Isn't that true? The pigs are better. We get the pigs. Jesus scares us. The pigs and the demon-possessed guy are easier to cope with than than Jesus. This is terrifying. They began to parakaleo, greatly encourage him to depart from their regions. Wow. All right, who wants to do this, knowing it's a genitive absolute? And when he got in the boat. What do you always put at the end of a genitive? Comma. And when he got into the boat, comma. Who wants to do this? They were parakaleoing Jesus to leave. When Jesus got into the boat, comma. Who wants to do this one? Good. I think you would. The one who had, and it's passive, so who had been demonized or something like that. The one having been demonized. Oh, isn't that beautiful? He wasn't begging for money or a farm, or he was begging hina met autu a. These guys want Jesus to leave. They're parakaleoing him to leave. This guy is parakaleoing him. Look, Jesus, I just want to be wherever you are. Good. Good. Very good. Nick, could you do this one? And he did not allow him. Okay, help me with that. This guy is begging to be with Jesus, and Jesus said no. Do you want to read the next part too, or is it maybe someone else? That's right. Go to your house, your own. You see the angel word there? Okay, so from angel, and announce to them, this is going to be an aorist imperative. How much the Lord, perfect, has done, and how he's had mercy for you. Now, does Jesus mean go tell what the Lord has done, or does he mean go tell what the Lord has done? So it could go either way. That's why God, in his wonderful providence, included Luke's version of this story. And in Luke's version, Jesus says, go tell what Theos has done for you. And then both Luke and Mark have this sentence. Who wants to do this one? Jessica, would you like to do this one? He went. That's the begin word, RK, with the temporal augment. So it goes from arkao, or whatever it is, to a. So this was began. To proclaim. So what is Deca? 10. So what would Decapolis mean? In the 10-city region. However many things. You got this. However many things. Ha-esos. Right. Go tell what God has done for you. And the man went out and told what Jesus had done for him. Luke makes it explicit. It's an inference here, but Luke makes it explicit. So where's Decapolis?
Like southeast.
So there's where it is. Which means that this man's a pagan. He's not a Jew.
Wow.
This is preparing for the Gentile mission. Jesus said no, but he said no because he wanted this man to do his big work first. And if this is 12 miles, how big an area is Decapolis?
Big area.
That's 60 miles right there. So Jesus said, go tell your folks in Graysville. And so the man goes to Nashville, Asheville, and Atlanta and tells how much Jesus said. This is the only guy in Mark who obeys. Every other person, Jesus will give a specific instruction, and they violate it. There are only two people in Mark that Jesus says, go tell. One is this guy, and the other two is the pair of women at the tomb. And if you end Mark where all the early manuscripts ended, Mark ends, but they didn't tell anybody because they were afraid, period. Don't you want to just start throwing hymnals at the person reading Mark? No, like they've got the best. And I know, or I wonder if Mark wouldn't say, well, what about you? You've got exactly the same good news, or are you not telling people because you're afraid? This guy super obeyed. So let me ask a question. It said this guy had been cutting himself, and you saw it was catacopto, so not just cutting himself, but intensely cutting himself. What do you think he looked like when he was being tormented by 6,000 demons? He'd have blood all over him. Do you think he had dried blood all over him too? What did that smell like? He'd been living in the tombs with rotting dead people. If he had cut himself with stones, do you suppose that there was blood, dried blood, and bruises? So here's my question. When Jesus sent the man from this place and he goes 60 miles and 12 miles that way and a long way this way, do you suppose that Jesus healed the man's scars? The text doesn't tell us. But what could Jesus have done? What were the options open to Jesus? He could have healed all of it. He could have healed none of it. Or he could have healed some of it. Let's explore all three of those options. Let's suppose Jesus didn't heal any of the scars. What do you think the man looked like? Like clothed and in his right mind, but with the scars. What would he have looked like? Be covered. How much of his body do you think the demons made him cut and bruise? Okay. Yeah, it doesn't, so it's all conjecture, but if Jesus healed none of the man's scars, and that guy went to a new town, Gerasa, Philadelphia, Pella, Christian flight to Pella is there too, and he sat down in a public place covered head to toe with scars, what are people going to say to him? He's covered head to toe with, like, not these little scars, but like massive scars. What are people going to say to him? Nothing would be one thing. It's like, oh, that guy's... But Sophie, if somebody does talk to him, what are they going to say? What happened? And you're the man. What are you going to say? Let me tell you about Jesus. I was plagued by 6,000 demons, and they wouldn't let me go to sleep. I could never go to sleep. The 6,000 demons abused me, and not only did they abuse me, but they made me abuse myself. And all these scars that you see came from self-mutilation that those demons made me do. And they made me live with dead bodies, and people tried to calm me down, and they would chain me up, and the demons would give me supernatural strength and look at these scars on my wrist. I used to beat the shackles until they broke, and I had foot shackles. And this guy showed up, and his name was Jesus, and those 6,000 demons begged like little babies for him not to send them to hell. And they begged, and Jesus, who has the power to send them to hell, decided that he wanted people to see what they were really like. So he took the demons out of me, and he put them into these, had them go into these pigs, and these demons were so foul they drowned 2,000 pigs. And Jesus sent me to you to show you my scars and to say that there's good news and freedom. That'd be a pretty good reason to leave scars, wouldn't it? If he healed all the scars, the man would know. And how grateful do you think the man would be if he healed all the scars, knowing what he used to look like, that he was so grotesque that when people looked at him that they would just run away screaming, and now he looks at himself in the mirror and he's kind of a normal. If Jesus healed all the scars, then you could understand that would win the man's. Or maybe Jesus healed some of the scars and left some of the scars. Maybe Jesus heals some of our scars and leaves some of our scars. Maybe Jesus will give us, maybe we'll beg to be Jesus with Jesus, and Jesus says no to this very fond thing that we want. But Jesus knows that he's got a task for us to do, and for our problems, and for the particular brokenness that we have. I don't know which one of those is the right answer to the question, but I do know that Jesus wants me to interact with that story and realize that he saved me from that lot.
Do you think it's possible that people have already heard about him, not just in the surrounding area, but also like in the cities?
I imagine they might have heard whispers of him. Absolutely. That Jesus could heal people, that Jesus could free the demon-possessed.
Also, why do we not translate it, the 10 cities instead? They just keep it to capitals.
Don't you feel robbed in English a little?
I know it's like ESV and other.
And Decapolis is what it says, right? I mean, so there's nothing, that's a fair translation. But would you grant that knowing Decapolis means that is helpful?
I mean, that's just what it means in Tennessee. It's not actually like that name that we just call it that.
Yeah.
Calling it Tri-Cities area.
Yeah, Tri-Cities. So, I really believe in biblical theology, a whole Bible biblical theology. And I love the beauty of it because it speaks to my heart. But people need help to slow down and hear these things. And it's not that everybody needs to learn Greek or Hebrew, but it is nice that there are some people who can help us, empower us, empower children, empower the people in the pew to make the connection, to see the beauty. Because G. Campbell Morgan said one of the greatest things you can have in Bible study is a sanctified imagination. And what he meant by that is where you read the details of the story enough where you can kind of live it. And I don't know if you've ever put yourself in that black cave with those 6,000, but the moment you're able to do that, this story will come alive to you. And you realize that those 6,000 demons, or maybe it was only 2,000, but however many it was, that they're so evil that they're making this man hurt himself and other people. And that you could have been that man. You would have been that man if God had just left you alone. Jesus said, "He who has been forgiven little loves little." And I wonder if the reason that we just aren't burning up with love for Jesus is because we don't understand the depth of our forgiveness and deliverance. And maybe this will help us a little. All right, who wants to do this one? Jonathan. All men, all of them were just completely amazed. Totally amazed. Another genitive absolute. Who wants to do this one? Cody, would you like to try this one? Or this is the other side, into the other side. And you did it right. So you put your comma there, and you can do when, since, or after. You chose after. After having gotten into the boat, again, having passed into the other side, comma. So all that is your genitive absolute. Good, very good. Who wants to do this one? Samuel.
A great crowd was gathered.
A great crowd was gathered upon him. Good. Who wants to do this one? Jessica. Right. The great crowd was by the sea, or if you think it's was, he, but he was beside the sea. I think it can mean either one of those. And who wants to do this one? Rebecca, have you done one today? Who's not done one today? Nathan. So that's exactly how I would do it. But that's missing this breathing mark right there. So instead of being, it's one. So I guess one is the subject, that's nominative. And one of the tone archi synagogon, the arch synagogue people, so the president of the synagogue. This would be like the pastor of the local church, I think, something like that. Comes. Chris, do you want to do this one? Name Jairus, Jairus, so that's a diaeresis mark. So you say Iairus, Iairus, by name, Iairus. What's true of every name in both Greek and Hebrew? And as good Bible study people, whenever we come to a name, we should Skip it. Oh.
That's it.
Yep. Bye.
Do you need anything? What are you talking about?
You're never going to get anything studying the details of Scripture. We should look up what this name means. So it turns out that this name means that. What in the world is that?
I have no idea.
That's Hebrew. And we're going to ask the question.
What does it say in Hebrew?
Okay, so this is how you say the word he in Hebrew. And this is how you say the word light in Hebrew. So, or is light, same as Ur of the Chaldees. So, Abraham was in a city that called itself the enlightened city, but really it was a city of darkness. So this guy is called enlightened guy or something like that. Light-giving guy. What's that?
Man of enlightenment.
Man of enlightenment? This was a guy who had all the answers, right? Did you make that connection too?
I said it's like a prophecy for his calling. Like if he's a synagogue ruler, like
He's the guy that you went to when you needed answers. And this is what enlightened guy does. He's not gone yet. Jake, you want to do this one? Yeah, so if you have a really bad pain in your foot, who do you go see? A podiatros? An iatros of pods? Right. Right. So he tiptoed toward his feet. I think it's more intense than that. He tiptoed. For some reason, my mnemonic device is tiptoe through the tulips. And I don't even know what that means. But I picture a guy falling, tiptoeing through the tulips. That's proof anybody can read Greek.
Whatever works.
I think Dr. Davis is getting a little bit
I had that mnemonic device when I was a committed Arminian, so. And having seen it, no, I'm not going to say that. Having seen him, he falls toward his feet.
Oh, sorry.
Elizabeth?
And he begs him much.
He begs him many things. Just like the swine people begged him to leave and the demon-possessed begged him to be with him, this guy begs him much.
So we've been translating that word palakaleo. It's come up like 3 times now, and each time he's translated it a different word. What's the translation for it? What is it?
So the translation is all 3 of those words. It has a semantic domain, but this is also the word comfort. I will send you a parakaleo who will comfort you. So it's interesting, isn't it, that this word means all of those things. Who wants to do this one? Do you recognize that's a diminutive? My little daughter has lastly is what it says. She's about to die. Remember, this is Greek's idiom of existence. How's it having? Ours is how's it going? She is seconds away from death.
So, wait,
Could you translate that as is holding?
Lastly.
Is having is holding at the end or something?
Right, and we get eschatology like from this word. We say she's on her last legs, or, I mean, there are all kinds of idioms, but it's saying she is just about to die.
So, with the erkatos, I see erkai that's beginning, right? If I'm remembering that. I like the original.
This word?
No, erkai or erka. The root of that word. What does that word mean?
Echo, have. Echo, skeso, eskon is the...
Erkatos, what's the root?
Oh, eschatos. That's actually the... So we get like eschatology from it, the study of the last things.
Oh.
In order that, so this is what he's begging, having come, you should place your hands on her in order that she be saved and might live. And he went with him. And the big crowd was following him, and they were soon fleboing him. So phlebo is where we get the word tribulation from. Thlipsis is like the great tribulation, and it means crushing, the great crushing. So the crowd was just like doing this to Jesus.
Which is insane when you think about this story.
Right. And there was a woman there
'Cause how does that
being in the flow of blood 12 years. So it's going to turn out the little girl's 12 years old. So
What?
you have the two extremes of society. This named guy who's the enlightened guy, pastor of the megachurch, and this woman who's not supposed to ever touch anybody and unnamed. And they both have a life crisis. And the one solution to their life crisis is the same person, Jesus.
Question. So, to get to Jesus, obviously, it's talking about how he was crushed by the crowd, but she's not allowed to touch people.
She's not allowed to touch, because every person she touches becomes ceremonially unclean.
So, how did she do that?
Is she like?
She's supposed to tell people.
I'm unclean. Don't touch me.
I'm unclean, sorry, I'm touching you.
Like, do you think that makes it harder? Or do you think that kind of clear a little path for her?
Oh,
No. She wants to be healed so badly she doesn't care.
She had to fight, too.
They describe women in the normal way of women in antiquity as she who sits apart. That's how you describe woman in the normal way of womanhood, she who sits apart. So this woman, 12 years, and she's got to touch Jesus.
Dr. Davis,
Yes.
if she touched those people, they're not really unclean, right? That's just like their stigma about this view.
Okay, so here's the thing. How many of you do daily devotions in Leviticus? Like, look forward to it every...
That's my jam.
Because, I mean, it's like dead animals make you unclean. If dead animals fall on certain things, then the things become unclean. But if they're different things, they're not unclean. And then, sex makes you unclean. You have the most legitimate, normal, God-blessed marriage that there is, and you have sex. In that marriage, you're unclean. Does that make sense to you?
No, not personally.
So here's the thing. It's not sex that makes you unclean. It's death that makes you unclean. And why is human sexuality associated with death post-fall? What do you make in human sexuality post-fall? When you reproduce after your kind and you're a spiritually dead entity. Which means normal, natural, good things make you ceremonially unclean because you're outside of Eden. Anything non-Eden-like makes you unclean. Animals didn't eat animals in Eden, so animals that predate, people didn't produce spiritually dead offspring in Eden. So now spiritually dead offspring makes you unclean. It's death that makes you unclean. So God's law about don't touch someone connected with death is a meta-narrative thing because she's going to touch Jesus, right? Jesus touches lots of people who are unclean, lepers, dead bodies, you know. You touch a dead body, you're unclean. Some people might criticize Jesus for that. I suppose Jesus would say, when I touch them, they're not dead. Keep trying to touch this dead body, and every time I touch the dead body, it's just like comes alive. One of the parallel accounts says that the woman touched his craspedion, technical word for tassel, a little blue tassel. Do you know what you wear? The men, if you see a Jewish person today, often they'll have a little blue tassel just below their suit. Do you know why Jews do that? Well, they're commanded to in Leviticus. And they're told why you should wear a craspedion. Reminds you to obey the 10 Commandments. What is this lady touching? Jesus' perfect obedience of the law. She, having suffered much at the hands of many iatroses, many physicians, having squandered her entire wealth, and having been benefited nothing. See that aphagletais, that O word, having been benefited nothing, but rather having gone into the worse, having heard about Jesus, having come in the crowd behind, she touched his garment. For she kept saying, if I should just touch his garment, I'll be saved. All right, I think we'll pick it up there next time.